Dear soul, welcome. I'm so honored you've chosen to spend this time with me today. I know the world moves fast. Timelines are flooded. Screens glow endlessly. But here you are, choosing stillness, choosing presence. And for that, I bow to your spirit. Today, I want to talk to you about something deeply human. Love. The hidden kind. The unspoken kind. The kind that lingers in glances, pauses in conversations, and stirs quietly in the soul like a river beneath frozen ice. He's more in love with you than he knows, Carl Jung once implied, and that is where our story begins. You see, love is not always fireworks and words. Often, love is subconscious. It's coded into the subtle gestures, the shift in tone, the moments when someone looks away. Not because they don't care, but because the caring is too loud inside them. In the monastery, we are taught not to chase after love, but to recognize it. To become still enough to feel its presence without needing its validation. The heart speaks, not always in words, but always in truth. Let me share a story. When I was a young novice, perhaps just 17, there was an old monk named Jampa who swept the courtyard every morning at dawn. He never spoke much, just a slight nod of acknowledgement. One morning, I asked him, "Why do you sweep the same path every day, even when it's already clean?" He smiled and said, "Because sometimes the dust is not on the path, but in the heart." That stayed with me. You see, love, real, soul-rooted love, is like that. It doesn't always arrive with grand declarations. Sometimes it's the quiet act of being present, of caring in the small ways, watching over you from a distance, remembering your favorite song, listening more than speaking. That's love. Unconscious but true. Carl Jung believed that much of what we call fate is actually the result of unconscious behaviors, unexamined thoughts and feelings. We fall in love silently. We hurt each other unknowingly. We miss signs, or worse, we misread them. So how do you know when someone feels more than they admit, or even realize? You watch for the sacred hesitations. The long pause after you laugh. The way he checks if you've eaten. The lingering eye contact that feels like a question unasked. That's where love hides. Not in the words, but in the almost. Let's slow this down. Take a deep breath. In and out. Love is not just about who gives you butterflies. Sometimes it's about who gives you peace, who softens the edges of your day without trying, who remembers the small things. Love is often a whisper, not a scream. And to hear it, we must become quiet ourselves. In my own journey, I've had to unlearn the noise of attachment. I once believed that love had to be proven, through passion, through pursuit. But with time and silence and many mornings spent in still meditation, I've come to understand love is a presence, a way of being. It is not forced. It flows. And sometimes it flows from someone who doesn't even understand what they feel. The unconscious speaks in symbols, in archetypes, in behavior. Carl Jung showed us that. So when he does things out of character around you, that's not accident. That's emotion slipping through the cracks of the ego. Here's another story. There was a young man who came to the temple. He was quiet, withdrawn. He asked to help with the kitchen chores. Every day, he'd arrive early, clean the floors, and leave without a word. But each morning, he left a single jasmine flower on the altar. One day, I asked, "Why the flower?" He hesitated. "It reminds me of someone, but I cannot say why." That's the thing. Love doesn't always come with clarity. Sometimes it arrives as a feeling that makes no sense to the mind, but perfect sense to the soul. If you are watching this, wondering if someone cares more than they say, ask not what they've said. Watch how they hold space for you. Watch how they remember. Watch what they do when you're not looking. Because unconscious love is not loud, but it is consistent. And you must also turn inward. Ask yourself, am I present enough to recognize love in its quiet forms? Or have I been so conditioned to seek drama and passion that I overlook devotion? Because what you see in others is also in you. That's the mirror. That's the lesson. That's the reflection Carl Jung taught us through his studies of the psyche. In the next part of our journey today, I want to guide you through a reflection exercise, one that will help you tune into your inner knowing to understand the signs of unconscious love, and more importantly, to deepen your self-awareness so you may give and receive love more mindfully. But before we begin, sit with this question. Who has shown you love quietly? We will continue this conversation in a moment as we dive deeper into how the unconscious reveals love and how you can tune your soul to hear it more clearly. Welcome back. I hope you took that moment. I hope you truly allowed yourself the silence to reflect, because that silence is where truth speaks. Let us go deeper now. There's a word we use often in the monastery, drishti, which means sacred gaze in Sanskrit. It's not just about looking with your eyes. It's about seeing with your awareness. When you develop drishti, you stop looking for surface-level signs of love, and you begin seeing the subtle threads that connect two souls across silence, across lifetimes. So when I tell you, he's more in love with you than he knows, I'm also inviting you to understand that he may not be conscious of this thread. But you can be. Because most of what we feel in this life is filtered by fear, by trauma, by ego. Many of us, especially men in this modern world, are taught to suppress tenderness, to numb, to rationalize what is meant to be felt. And so love becomes masked, delayed, postponed. But even in postponement, it leaks through. In the way he subtly lights up when he sees you. In the way he gets protective when someone speaks to you harshly. In the way he looks at the floor when your eyes linger too long. It's all there. The language of the unconscious. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." What he meant was that what lies beneath our awareness is powerful. Often, it's in the driver's seat. So if someone's heart stirs when you're near, but their mind hasn't caught up, that's not confusion. That's evolution in progress. Now, you may ask, should I wait? Should I hold space for someone who isn't yet fully aware of what they feel? Let me share another story. There was once a woman who visited our monastery every spring. She would bring fruit and fresh lotus flowers, place them at the altar, and quietly sit in meditation. She told me once, 25 years ago, I met a man. We walked under the same stars, but he wasn't ready. He didn't know what he felt. So I chose silence. But every year I bring a prayer for his peace, because love doesn't need to possess. It only needs to witness. That story still lives in me. Because it shows the purest form of love, the kind that asks for nothing, only to bless. So here is the deeper question. Are you in love with how someone makes you feel? Or are you in love with who they are becoming? The unconscious signs. You're watching for the pauses, the shifts, the nervous energy. These are signs of the soul awakening. But awakening takes time. A lotus doesn't bloom on command. It unfolds when the light is right, and you must be that light. So let's take a breath. Inhale. Hold. Exhale slowly. Let's now do a short reflection exercise. You can keep Your eyes open or gently close them, whatever feels right. Reflection. Exercise. Recognizing unconscious. Love, ask yourself, who do I feel most peaceful around? Who sees me in moments when I'm not performing, not trying, just being? Who disappears when the world gets loud but reappears when it matters most? And now, flip the mirror. Who have I loved quietly without even knowing? Who do I smile for unconsciously? Whose presence makes me feel like home? You see, our hearts are wise, often wiser than the mind, but we have forgotten how to listen to them. The purpose of love is not to be claimed. It is to be recognized. So if you've been wondering about someone, if you've sensed a hidden affection, a subtle pull, a feeling in the air that words have not yet named, trust your awareness. Trust your drishti. And remember, people can love you deeply without knowing how to express it. Love is a frequency. Not everyone is tuned to hear it yet, but you are learning how. Now, before we close this part of our journey, I want to leave you with a practice, one that you can carry into your daily life. Practice the 3 signs. In the next 7 days, notice these 3 things. Who listens to you more than they speak? Who remembers what you didn't even know you said? Who gets quiet around you, not out of disinterest, but out of inner stirring? These are your signs, not loud, not obvious, but they are the soul's fingerprints. Be gentle with what you find. Be patient with what you feel. And remember, love, especially the unconscious kind, cannot be rushed. It unfolds like dawn, soft, steady, inevitable. When we meet again in the next part of this journey, I will guide you into how to awaken conscious love, both in yourself and in those you hold dear. We will explore emotional maturity, spiritual attraction, and the difference between karmic entanglement and soul connection. Until then, keep breathing. Keep noticing, keep being. You are seen. You are loved. You are already whole. Welcome back, dear one. You've journeyed with me through stillness, through stories, through questions that stir the heart. And now, we walk deeper still, not into confusion, but into clarity. You see, once we begin to recognize unconscious love in others, the quiet affection, the hesitant warmth, the soul that doesn't yet understand what it feels, the next step is perhaps the most important, turning inward. Because love is not just about what you receive, it's about what you awaken in yourself and in those around you. And that awakening begins with conscious love. Let's sit with this truth for a moment. Most people are not afraid of love. They are afraid of what love demands: vulnerability, surrender, presence, truth. These are heavy things for a world obsessed with speed and surface. When someone is more in love with you than they know, it's not always because they are hiding. It's because they are afraid that what they feel will undo the version of themselves they've built to survive. Jung spoke of the shadow self, the part of us we keep hidden, even from ourselves. Often our deepest love lives there, buried beneath layers of self-protection and unconscious fear. And when you stir that love in someone, they may not react with romance. They may react with distance, silence, even confusion. But don't mistake that for lack of feeling. I once asked my teacher, why do people run from love that feels safe? He smiled, touched his heart, and said, because safe love is unfamiliar, and the unfamiliar feels dangerous until you have healed. So let's talk about healing. Conscious love is the love that sees all of you, the chaos and the calm, the joy and the shame, and still chooses to stay present. It does not chase. It does not prove. It does not demand. It simply is. it grows. Not from craving, but from cultivation. And this, dear one, is where your power lies. If someone feels more than they understand, you don't need to convince them. You only need to live in such a way that your presence speaks clearly, kindly, and without fear. That means speak with compassion, not strategy. Hold space, but don't shrink yourself. Practice detachment, but not disinterest. Let go, but don't close off. Because when you love consciously, you become the mirror in which others begin to see their own hidden feelings reflected. And that is one of the greatest gifts you can give, not just to them, but to the world. Let me share a story from my own path. Years ago, before I took my final vows, I met a young woman who would come to the temple gates every week. She never came inside. She just sat on the outer bench and listened to the bells. I asked her once why she never stepped through. She said, "Because I am afraid that if I come closer, I will never leave." I understood. There are places in life where love feels like home, but home feels like surrender. We fear that if we step in fully, we'll lose ourselves. But true love, conscious love, doesn't erase you. It reveals you. And perhaps that's what he fears too. So instead of trying to make him realize what he feels, become what he feels when he's safe. Become the silence in which he can hear his truth. Become the space where his fear turns into faith. Love is not about waiting for the other to arrive. It's about walking your own path with such steady grace that others are inspired to rise and walk beside you, not out of pressure, but out of resonance. Now, I offer you this gentle practice. Practice the mirror of love each morning before. Speaking to anyone else, ask, "How can I show love today without attachment? Where in me still needs softening, not fixing? Whose hidden love can I honor, even if unspoken?" You'll find that slowly, the more you live in conscious alignment, more unconscious love around you begins to shift. Sometimes into words, sometimes into transformation, and sometimes into goodbye. But every form is sacred, because conscious love does not cling. It blesses and trusts. So if he is more in love with you than he knows, let him learn that through your presence. Let your peace remind him of what he's forgotten. That real love does not demand awakening. It invites it. You don't need to save anyone. You only need to become so rooted in your own wholeness that your very being becomes a path others walk to remember their own heart. You are not here to force clarity. You are here to live so truthfully, so gently, so courageously, that love, in all its forms, recognizes you, and that dear soul is your true power. In our final conversation, we will explore how to let go with grace, how to receive love without fear, and how to cultivate the inner silence that makes all truth rise to the surface. Until then, breathe softly. Be the love you seek. And remember, you are not waiting for love. You are waking love, in you and in others. You've walked far with me, not in distance, but in depth. And that is the longest journey we will ever take, from the noise of the world to the silence of the soul. Today, we've spoken of unconscious love, of the signs people give before they're even aware of what stirs within them. We've spoken of Carl Jung's mirror, how the unseen within us shapes the seen around us. But now, dear one, we arrive at the final, sacred part of this path, letting go. Not of love, but of control. Because what causes most suffering in love is not love itself. It's the belief that love must look a certain way, arrive at a certain time, or come from a certain person. But love is not a possession. It is a presence. And when you truly understand that, you become free to love without fear, to receive without need, to release without pain. You see, many people will love you from a distance. Some will only love you silently, in the corners of their heart. Some will never say it, but you'll feel it. And some will only realize what they had when you are already gone. But none of that is a reflection of your worth. It is only a reflection of their readiness. Let me tell you one final story. There was once an old monk who kept a stone bowl on his windowsill. Every morning, he placed a single petal in it. One day, I asked, "Why do you do this?" He said, "For every person I've loved who could not love me back, I leave a petal, not as grief, as gratitude." I was confused. Gratitude? He nodded. Yes, because each one helped me become more love, not less. That, dear soul, is the essence of spiritual maturity. To thank even the incomplete loves, to bow to the lessons of silence, to recognize that love, even unreturned, refines you. And so, if you find yourself wondering whether someone loves you, look not only to their words, but to your own inner stillness. Ask not, "Do they love me?" Ask, "Can I love even without knowing?" That is where power lives. That is where peace is born. Because true love is not a transaction, it is a transformation. When you live from love, not lack. When you stop chasing signs and start embodying presence. When you trust the timing of your life more than the timing of someone else's awakening. You return to your center. You become a monk in the modern world, still in motion, soft in strength, full in emptiness. Before we close, I offer you a final reflection, a vow, if you wish, to carry with you. I will no longer beg for love that is already mine to give. I will trust that those meant for me will meet me in presence, not confusion. I will hold no resentment for those who aren't ready, only compassion. And I will not shrink my light just because others haven't yet opened their eyes. Now, place your hand on your heart. Feel that quiet rhythm. That is your first love story, and it is still being written, not by another, but by you. So live with love. Speak with truth. Release with grace. If he is more in love with you than he knows, let that be his journey. And let your journey be the return to yourself. You are love. You are enough. You are free. Until we meet again. Namaste. Subscribe for weekly wisdom from the monastery. Comment below. What part of today's reflection spoke to you the most? Share this with someone who may need quiet love today.